Hello there everyone, welcome to this faction guide for Skrag, the slaughterer of the Ogre Kingdoms. I went through the initial turns so that I could check out the victory conditions, starting location, diplomacy mechanics, etc. As I made my conclusions, I'll let you know what I believe works well, and in the end what army compositions I would try to use during the game. As always, this is not an in-depth guide, but should help you out in starting up with a faction. I believe it's time then to start with Skrag the Slaughterer of the Ogre Kingdoms. For your short victory condition, you need to win the Cauldron of the Great Maw quest battle. So at one point, you'll have that quest battle to do, and you have to win it. Pretty basic. You also need to destroy the Border Princes, located right in your doorstep. They are quite lengthy. Unlike some other factions, they do have like 5 settlements or so when they start up. And you also need to occupy, loot, raise or sack 30 different settlements. Now the reward is +3 rank to all armies. This is good to ensure you get that extra edge for your units and armies as you are recruiting them, of course. Now the long victory campaign changes things. It requires you to achieve the short victory condition, occupy, loot, raise or sack 75 different settlements, and then to control 8 specific settlements from a list. Now let me show you that. You can see over there, these go to, by the name you can guess, these go to Cathay. So 3 of them are already there, and then you reminder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So all the others need to be quite close, otherwise it will take time. Black Crag, of course, you already know. Crookback Mountain is rather close. Galbaraz, still close. Grom Peak, still close. Karakungar starts being really far away. Massive Orcal to the other direction. Ekrund is the one closest by. And then Saber Mountain pretty far away. So, biggest problem is that it needs it to advance into different directions, so it's going to take some time. I'm unsure if you can even achieve domination before that, but still. The reward is Global Recruitment Capacity +2. It would be a good one, but by that time, I don't know if it would be important. Still, it will allow you to replenish any casualties if you need, of course. Now, Skrag is the prophet of the Great Maw. He has more 10% movement range for all armies. It has added hero capacity +1 for butchers and hero recruit rank +2 for butchers. It could receive a big upgrade. Campaign movement range is really nice, but the other ones are slightly underwhelming. Of course, it's always nice to have, more recruit ranks, but I wish he would get something else, really. Now, climate is fairly good, I would say. It's one of the best factions to capture the whole map, as you can see here. This is how I like to check climate. If I see tons of red, then that's a problem. But overall, even on the places that he needs to go to, they're all kind of green, so that's always a good thing. That's always a nice thing to check out. So he'll be able to conquer the whole map if you want, and suffer less attrition while at it. The starting location is a 3-settlement province, but the ogres work slightly different. It is just a bad location mainly because you start in the middle of things, and further expansion will only lead to more foes without you having easy choke points to defend. This is a big issue of starting here. It's just like really in the middle. I don't know if anyone has a worse position than Skrag here, really. Now, basically, you're very close to the Empire and the Dwarfs, so typical expansion will lead you into contact with Tomb Kings or with Bretonia and several other nasty factions. So you should eliminate the Border Princes soon, and then either proceed north or east, basically. You'll be able to proceed west. I would not advise it because of Ethel Lauren as soon as possible, so yeah, be wary of that. It's both difficult to maintain. Now, going south is possible as well, but you'll then have the uninhabitable climate here with the desert, so be mindful of that. You will always get into further enemies, so yeah, good luck. The other good thing is that you do have some pastures nearby, so casualty replenishment rate and growth in this province will be great, because you'll have both as soon as you capture Eckendorf, so for sure you'll get a good province to start in, but that's about it. So ogres are more of a neutral faction. Basically, you can always swing the tide towards one or another group, since you start off at war with an empire faction. Now, it is predicted that you will gain favor, because of that, you will gain favor with the green schemes, with the Skaven, or anyone else that is fighting against them. For instance, you will get good relations with the vampire counts just because you're fighting the border princes. So yeah, be mindful of that. Main enemies will be the Order faction, so the Empire, Bretonia later on, Dwarfs, Wood Elves, maybe Vampire Counts, it depends on how well you proceed, others in your path of conquest. Plenty of opportunities to change this, although you may already be set to have, let's say, an Evil Tide vibe. Now, outposts. They'll most likely happen with Skaven, so get some missile units, some good frontline infantry, such as even the Storm Vermin if you wish. You can also get some green skins to help you out, especially if you can get some Black Orcs, that would be excellent, some single entities, or some artillery pieces, that would be great. And of course, you can always get some Vampire Counts units, especially their flying units, that's what I would go for, but nothing wrong with getting some infantry, solid infantry for the front line. It's up to you. These are the options that I would like to try out in my campaigns. So mechanics wise, let's talk about camps first. So you need to research to be able to build more. You can see there camp limit +1, or over here camp limit another +1. Okay, so with the research you'll be able to advance the camp limits. The camps are exactly like they work like a horde faction. Okay, so that's where you can get, you can give them some units to defend if you wish, and you can recruit units there to defend as well. But yeah, that's how it works. Basically, these are the building ones. That's where you can build and become your major settlements. This is where you can build everything that is really important. More on that on the buildings place. But for now, this is, you always can choose where you build the camps. So for instance, I've chosen to build them here on this choke point so that I can dominate this choke point. Is that a good idea or not? I really do not know. But still, it's always a nice, also strategical option for you guys. They do have a sphere of influence so that they can help you out. So yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Now, big names. Let's talk about big names. These are just basically traits that will happen. Okay. For instance, I've ended my turn with over 50 meat, so I managed to get this trait. It will last for 8 turns until I can change that. So yeah, it's a decent one, so that you can get some traits for your heroes and lords, which is always nice. Then you can have some customization options. I always love that. I wish they would have a little bit more, but that's up to CA. Now, meat, you've heard that. It's used for many things. So, first, every army consumes meat unless it is in a camp circle of influence, which is a big point. Now, you can use that meat to, when you start a battle or a fight, to consume it and gain some buffs to fight it out. You can also offer it to the Great Maw, and that will give you some surplus as well. So for instance, if I want campaign movement range plus 30%, let's go. If I want global recruitment duration -2 turns to get, I want to get more units, I'm recruiting, so let's get for it. Let's fill my bellies. Let's do this. Let's fill my bellies, and suddenly if I go to recruit units, everything is 1 turn. So great options. So that's the sort of idea that you can have. Okay. Now, they also have great army abilities that they unlock via the research tab, by the way. Have the Dismember there, the Butcher there. You also have the Massacre army ability, so that's great. You can get those army abilities and they'll drastically change how you play on the battlefield. Finally, we do have contracts. Let me show you these. So contracts are what gives it a little bit of a mercenary flavor to the campaign. You'll get contracts from specific factions, and then by completing them, of course, you'll get the specific buffs to them. So yep, they are slightly underwhelming, but still it's something nice to do. Some missions to achieve to get a little bit of an edge during your playthrough, and hopefully, of course, CA expands a little bit on this, but that's up to them, of course. So, in terms of province edicts, you have less control, you have less campaign movement range for the enemy, and growth. This is always excellent, you know, it does help that the enemy cannot move closer while you're growing up. It's really cool. Now you have a lesser chance of a plague spreading and income from all buildings, and you also have minus corruption, recruitment costs, and local recruitment capacity. Now, the biggest issue is how the settlements work, because you're most likely not be recruiting for too long, so some of these are kind of misplaced, and basically you won't be benefiting too much, but of course nothing wrong with having, you know, just some growth and some income everywhere, of course. Now, in terms of the army stances, basically you do have the encamp for with costs 50% movement. They are pretty straightforward, nothing to see here, you know, immune to attrition, enables replenishment, and access to global recruitment. Raid costs 50% movement. I do like that it gives camp growth to local camps, of course, but I wish it would add, you know, some food, for instance, some meat. That would be excellent for that meat mechanic. Ambush, 25% cost movement, and then forced march. Nothing really too shabby, just the overall basic ones. No. As for buildings, let's start with basic settlements first. You have 2 buildings for military, although not everything you can build, just your basic troops. They are still quite effective, but still you want to get those good units as soon as possible, of course. Now, infrastructure includes a growth and replenish building, income building, meat generated for armies in the region with reduction to half of your income, so that's pretty nasty. It's pretty bad. And then we have control and corruption. Okay, so this is pretty much what you will have with your basic camps, of course. But yeah, it does generate some meat for armies in the region, so that's good, I guess. Now, in terms of the real ones, your camps. This is the cool part, okay? So it does reduce the upkeep of the unit stationed here, so you can benefit from that. You can just put all your units, your costly units into the camp just to enjoy the reduced upkeep while you're just, you know, training other units, etc. That sort of idea, okay? Now, you require 5 buildings for max military. Do note you can build every single building or nearly every single building in your camps, which is great. Okay, so 5 military buildings for max capacity. That's really good. It's one of the cheapest, let's say, in terms of buildings that you can get. And of course, this one can already be built in the minor settlements, so that's good. That's something. Now, infrastructure, let's talk about it. We do have an income and treasure reward from contracts. It's a really good income generated building, so don't neglect it. Also have a meat generated for armies in the circle of influence. You have a butcher unlocks as recruitment building, of course, meat gained from battles in the armies in circle of influence, and some more leadership in those armies. And then you have a camp growth and local recruitment capacity. Now, defense buildings are kind of more infrastructure, really. One provides replenishment and an army ability there. Let me show you. Gluttony, it's for regeneration, of course. And then the other one just provides less upkeep and more income from post-battles. So, basically, all the units in camp, can you see, minus 30% and minus 60%, you nearly get the full 100%. So they're really cheap. It's always best to, when you're recruiting new units, to just put everyone in the camp if you wish. But you have those possibilities, of course, you know. In terms of research, it's pretty good. It gives army abilities. It does give you the camp limit ones. Notice that the very last one, it gives you 1 camp limit for every level 5 camp build, so the more you upgrade those, the more you will get, of course, which is a good addition so that you can get more camps overall. And then it has some good buffs for, you know, in this case, diplomacy, treasury rewards, has some charge bonus for units, melee defense for units in camps, minus of upkeep, meat. So it does provide you with a lot of buffs in many stages, so by all means keep an eye on the research because it will be very important, especially reaching that last one, which is really important for domination victory for sure. as you know by now, but I'll remember you again, Legendary Lord or Lord specific buffs are here. You also have the combat or magic ones. You have the red line or army skills. You also have the blue line or campaign. Now, Skrag does have a summon ability and some great campaign buffs, typically. He also benefits from replenishing his armies and having his research rate here, which is great. You know, that's the blue line. It's really cool. He has a reduced upkeep as well, more meat provided by camps, you know, some income from all buildings. It's all nice, all nice. Now, the red line is quite efficient. It allows some great elite army compositions. It has the Gnoblars and the Ogre Bulls here, which means that everything else, it's really great. You'll see later on as I show you the screenshot of everything. Now, Tyrants are actually, you know, the other types of units. They're actually more into income and buffing their army, okay? While the Slaughter Masters are more into research, replenishment and magic. That's what I meant. As for heroes, your Fire Bellies are just dedicated to having, you know, fire damage, of course, you know, fire magic. The Hunters, however, they are really cool if you wish to have bonuses for your Saber Tusks. I believe I have one here, but here. Yes, I can show you. Plenty of bonuses for Saber Tusk packs. You may wish to have just an army with those, just for fun, of course. And Butchers, they do give you replenishment. Let me show you that over here on the camp. But yes, the Butchers are the ones that can replenish troops, and of course they're caster units, so they're always welcome. So here are the red line skills for the Ogre Kingdoms. Note how most of the elite units can actually benefit from the same line. For instance, the Man-Eaters. These are great units. You'll use them overall. All your monsters, all your cavalry. This is great, actually. So Skrag has a minor ability, just some upkeep for Gorges and more casualty replenishment rate for them. So of course you can try some compositions with them, but I wouldn't make a full army of them. It is not as good as it was before, basically, as with some updates that the faction received. Now, it's nothing wrong with having some Man-Eaters supported by missile troops or supported by some monsters, by the way. Nothing too fancy about that, but it's just really cool. And you can see how efficient it is in terms of red line skills, allowing you to have more skills allocated for other stuff. You know, nothing wrong with the Crushers with great weapons. They'll dominate the anti-large department, so yeah, that's cool. Basically, you do have to remember yourself that ogres have some of the finest cavalry in the games and finest missile troops. So here are some compositions with missile troops for your armies, you know. Just adding in, this is an army just for fun that everyone shoots. And of course the Man-Eaters, these are as good as these ones, basically, without the shield. But still, they'll be able to survive for long. So who knows, this is a good army to fight with and having some fun. And these are more dedicated to the cavalry units, of course. Maybe this one more of a rush faction, just some Saber Tusks to be speedy and capture anyone or any artillery units, for instance, or maybe an army based on the ambush mechanics. That's the sort of idea that I would use. But they are very effective in the red line skill distribution, which is, it's crazy good for a faction as the Ogres. So to resume, climate is really cool, so you can definitely go for domination with the ogres. They have a massive army, and it is quite fun, actually, although not your typical army. Now, the fact that you start in a completely different location with different friends and enemies makes this a great choice for a different take on the Ogre Kingdoms compared to Greece's. It's really a nice addition that they don't start close by, and they have different enemies to face, of course. Now, your army will consist of poor infantry, great monstrous infantry, great missiles, great monstrous cavalry, good single entities. They do lack flying units, and they do lack the numbers. Now, replenishment is good, and it's aided by the climate. Could be better, but still the climate helps a lot. Now, I believe now it will be time to Shrek around with Skrag of the Ogre Kingdoms.